Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Rugby League Outlaws. Unfortunately, we were going to go back to the in-studio format, but someone, literally I, picked up a nasty cough. So I'll be joined again by the returning Soulsy and my good mate, AJ. Let's get straight into the Rugby League. Welcome to this week's edition of Rugby League Outlaws. As mentioned before, I'm joined by a very special guest and my good mate, AJ. AJ, let's get right into it, mate. We were going to keep it positive tonight, but I'm positive that this was the worst officiated round of Rugby League that I can remember. I don't want to implore hyperbole here, but I can't remember a worse week of Rugby League. What are your thoughts on the crackdown?
That one is that Andrew Abdo said on 360 tonight, but it was a rough watch. It was a really rough watch this weekend. And what pissed off a lot of people was when they want to go back to instance, like the retrospective ones, like when the Sandon Smith one, for example, like it was in that same set, they knocked on, they go back because there's somewhat of an advantage there for the Dragons to have with a penalty for a higher tackle. Do I agree with Sandon Smith being sin-binned? No. Like the charge sheet proved that he got grade 1 or something. And only copped the fine. I think we crunched the numbers. Reese and I crunched the numbers. 6 of the 18 sin bins this week were ones that the bunker picked up afterwards. And like the one, I think was a Take Aho when he went back. Like I think it was a set and a half.
Honestly, there's 15 sin bins, mate. I can't pick them out.
Like, and even the Fanua Bole one on Sunday, it was a joke.
We didn't know what it was for. And we were watching the game intently as Sharks fans, looking for reasons to yell for sin bin. And when they called him out, we're like, what?
He ricocheted off the head. It was just like, if there's ever an overreach, it was this weekend. And, like, we've had the retrospective sin bins before. Like, I think Feketi got done against Penrith, and Penrith nearly came back to beat us, of course. So, of course, we're going to be picking out agendas there. But I am just sitting back stunned at the moment because it feels like we're jumping at shadows, and it feels like the bunker are playing babysitter for the on-field officials.
Yeah, this was the biggest overcorrection. I said a couple of weeks ago, the worst thing that happened to Rugby League, and this is hyperbole, was Jerome Luai not getting sin bin for that obvious sin bin. At the time, you knew it was an error, and you just knew the NRL were going to come out. As soon as they said that, crackdown, that's what I hated to hear, because that, to me, screams overcorrection. And we saw it this week. Like probably 5 of the 6 retroactives were like, what? Because you didn't see them. They weren't forceful enough to cause a stoppage for 1, which not all of them will. Not enough to force HAs for 2. And 3, you're thinking, when did this happen? And then on the Bole one, just because I was watching that game more intently than the others, being the Sharks, that was a joke. That felt a square up for the, don't get me wrong, under the current guidelines, Nicker was always going to sit down. Should he? Of course not. But if he went, there was always going to be that, oh, yeah, we got to send one of theirs. And I'm not saying they ref to agendas. I'm not saying they're doing it on purpose. But this week it felt like 3 minutes after, they're going, there it is. That's the one. I can sin bin. Oi, oi, oi. And I have a theory that referees this week who were missing more than they got, and I'm a big fan of refs. I've sat here with Terry sit next to me, and I've argued against him. He's a scary dude when he gets his back up. Imagine you're trying to sit here now, AJ, and you got someone in your ear going, oi, 4 tackles ago, there was a... You can't do your job. That's why you're not allowed to drive and talk on the phone, because you can't split... Sorry, I'm getting... hold on. 4 things. Just wait. Everyone stop. I'm going to stop. There's 60,000 people in the stands. Everybody stop while we go back 7 minutes to do something. It was a hard watch is a PG way to put it. It was an awful weekend of football.
Yeah, it was pretty disastrous. I kind of feel sorry for them in a way because they've got this directive from up top about always trying to protect players and whatnot. But I think this was sort of the overcorrection before chaos. Like, because we got Magic Round next week. That's a showpiece event. And you don't want to stuff that up. Like, if you stuff Magic Round up, you're going to get people to walk away from the game. It's as simple as that. People, like, I don't know what the tourism numbers are, but there's a fair chance you're going to get 25,000 people flying into Brisbane, or even less or more, flying into Brisbane for a weekend of rugby league. And if you're going to ruin it by going back X amount of tackles to sin bin people for instances that aren't really there, then it's a joke. Like, if they're going to do that, have someone from the match review committee sit in there with you, look at a tackle. If you're going to go back and retrospectively put it, and if you're going to go, oh, maybe that's a grade 2, then put it in the bin.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that hard of an exercise. They've got a supervisor in there whose job it is to go back and look over everything. Like, it's frustrating to watch. And then to have Graham Annesley come out today for the first time all season, shock horror, and say that, yes, we overstepped the mark, but we're not going to apologise for doing so. It just feels like you got your head in the sand and you've ducked out for oxygen.
Yeah. You're exactly right, mate. It's funny you mentioned Magic Round. It's a couple of years ago. Remember there was like 30 sin bins in the week where it was every high contact and everyone's like, this is a joke. It sort of went away again and it crept back in. And don't get me wrong, we'll be sitting here this time next year complaining about referees. It's just the nature of the beast. But this has gone to an extreme. Now, I'm going to sound very biased here, but the Ronaldo Mulitalo challenge, he got hit in the head. There were 5 or 6 penalties that were love taps that were given in that very game. There were 10 or 15 in the game before. He's challenged, feeling contact that they've picked up all week, and they've gone, no, it's incidental contact. Well, so was Bole's that hit McInnes that was 10 minutes. There was one in the Roosters game, I think the Smith one, or it could be one of the other 10s.
Yeah.
There were 6 or 7 that you could argue, oh, that's incidental contact. My God, that Penrith game on Saturday night changed about 35 times depending on who held the ball. They got the penalties, they got the man advantage. And it's just, mate, I don't want to be one of those people, but this is not the game that we've grown to love.
Yeah. And at the same time, though, high tackles have increased tenfold this year. Last year to this point, 200 high tackles. This year, 379.
God, that's a huge... Is that just they're picking up more, or is that the technique's worse?
Well, I think it's a bit of both, to be honest with you. The game's getting faster. And I think as much as we like to laugh at Adam O'Brien, he had a really good quote this week about speed at the game and about how accidents would happen. I'm not too sure if I've got it here, but it was something along those lines. He had a really good yarn about it for once. He had something positive to say, Adam O'Brien. It was a bit of a shocker to me, but I think that, yeah, it was an absolute... I wouldn't go as far to call it as an embarrassment, but it was an insane overcorrection this week. And it's frustrating to watch.
It is, mate, but we'll be here again next week talking about the same thing because the NRL and their infinite wisdom have come out yesterday by the time this drops and said, we've got it. We're going to react and we're going to tell the bunker not to do what we instructed them to do this time last week and only go back and retroactively give penalties if it's a send-off. 2 things are going to happen here, AJ. 1, we're going to see a really weak send-off. Or 2, players are going to stay down to milk penalties. Which way do you think it goes?
I've got a feeling that there's going to be some players doing the old milk this week, let me tell you. And it's going to be a real ethical week of rugby league to see which teams stay down, which teams get up and play football, because I have a sneaky suspicion there will be some teams and some particular players, especially those across the Tasman, that do like to stay down, not naming names, but you watch enough rugby league, you know, that will try and stay down and go for penalties. And it's going to cause a problem. Referees are going to have to make a decision based off what they see. But the question I have with that, though, Dan, is if they stay down, right, they're going to think, oh, holy crap, there's moderate force in this one. Off you go.
Mate, that's it. I have a real worry. Now, Cronulla a couple of weeks ago in the crackdown, were the first game against Canberra. It didn't really kick until the next day. This Friday night, Cronulla open Magic Round, and more on that later against Parramatta. Now, I'm hoping it doesn't really kick into the Saturday and that game's refereed relatively normally. There's going to definitely be someone stay down, and yesterday, or Sunday afternoon, I should say, every second tackle, Appy Coruscant saying, stay down, stay down. And I was about to have a go at him, but we lost all credibility when Blake Brayley started doing this every couple of minutes, sending for 10. And I was like, you've just cost us what we did have. That's going to happen 1,000 times this weekend. If there's an over-under being offered anywhere, get on overs no matter what the number is. I think this week we may see record HIAs, not because of high contact, because of players staying down and the doctor saying, well, obviously they're hurt enough that I have to inspect them. I think this week could be one of those weeks where we look back and go, and not for the right reasons.
I feel sorry for the match officials this week, to be honest with you, because they're in a really lose-lose situation where they follow protocol to the best of their ability this week. I mean, Did they get some of those decisions wrong? Absolutely. But at the same time, they were kind of left in a lose-lose situation there. I mean, you're kind of put in that situation with, I think Casey Badger did 2 games this week. Adam G did 3. So you're overworking them in a sense there. And then you have guidelines being given down to them from head office. And then those guidelines are cooked, to say no better word. Then you have incidents that should be placed in the sin bin missed, burden. Like, that was a joke. Like, the one incident you do is serious, you miss it.
So bad. It was an awful weekend, mate. But we love rugby league. This week was one that you put in there. Let's never do that again. But let's move on to some good news, because this has been a long time coming, and we actually cut this promo many times last year. The Perth Bears are not officially announced yet, but there's a letter that says they're going to get announced at some stage. What are your thoughts on the Bears, mate? Because this feels years and years overdue for me.
I love it. I love an 18 team in the competition. I love that we're going back to WA. Whenever we go to WA as a standalone game, we always get 20, 30,000. I was a little bit worried with those crowds a couple of weeks ago after we nearly deserted them off to the wayside, but they're going to love our game over there. It's a perfect time slot with the late games on a Saturday night, because you can pretty much go a quadruple Super Saturday if you want to, the league fan, and get rid of Thursday night football potentially, which will be an absolute godsend. Or also get rid of that 6 o'clock game too, let me tell you.
There's big changes. Mate, I love this. I'm a big proponent. Terry isn't. He didn't like the late game. I love it. I think you can have a game kick off at 9:30 here, 6:30 over there, or 7:30. I can't remember how it works. I think it might be 7:30. I think it's 2 hours, 3 hours when we go to daylight savings. But you're right. Every time we go over there, it's a festival atmosphere. Origin goes close to selling out or sells out. Perth, when I was there, and we're talking almost 20 years ago now, that's showing my age, I wanted to watch a Sharks game. They're like, yeah, it's on the back. It's right in the back. It was on a legit black and white TV that had no sound. I couldn't tell who was who. So we just went home and listened to it on the wireless because we're so old. But it was an AFL town. They had Fremantle on, and they had whatever was happening in Melbourne in that AFL rubbish. I kind of mean that, but not really, but also kind of. It just, no, everyone's like, rugby, what? No, get out of here. It's different now, mainly because a lot of people have gone over there for affordable housing, but it's a rugby league-ish town, and I think with a team, I think it will become a rugby league town. I see nothing negative in this. Do you think it will affect the player market?
Interesting question off the bat, let me tell you. But I think there's going to be some huge contracts offered around in the next sort of couple of years, and there's going to be some interesting decisions made. Do they go with the rumoured coach, Brad Arthur? Like, you look at a Jake, you look at a Matt Arthur at the moment. Do they go and try and become a franchise player at last? Do players who are off contract from November 1 think, crap, I might actually get a start for once here? Do I go over there? But the question is, how much will they have to offer to get them to go across the country? That's the only question I have there. Will a $300,000, $400,000 player all of a sudden become a $700,000, $800,000 player?
It's particularly
with certain player managers out there.
Mm-hmm. I have a list going on Zero Tackle, without bearing the lead here, that has 5 players, franchise players, that I believe are a real shot at getting poached and built as the marquee. And I'm going to lead with Lachlan Galvin. He's the obvious one. I don't think it's a coincidence that all this happened as Perth were being announced, because anything we hear, they've been hearing for weeks. Like that's what they get paid to do. They've got fingers in all the plums, I think is the wrong expression now. I say it out loud. I would be shocked if they haven't said, oh, you just wait till Perth are announced. And I don't think you'll see any big contracts signed in the next little bit, because they're coming in a couple of years' time. And if you're off contract this year, you sign a 1-year deal and say, hey, Perth, come speak to us. I think it's going to be mayhem in a fun way. And I guarantee you we're going to see a player grossly overpaid to go across there, and I'm here for it.
I think we could see it too. And I also think too, another thing that this Perth team needs to look at, you can fly direct from Perth to the UK now.
That's a good point. Are you suggesting that a certain halfback make his life easier?
I might be suggesting that, but also I might be suggesting that a certain Man of Steel player might want to come test his waters in the NRL, and Mikey Lewis.
That's a very good shout. Look, another name that I'm not going to put on the list, but I was going to link immediately is Bevan French. This guy wants to come back to the NRL. He tried to last time, and Wigan were like, Perth come in with a monster offer. I don't think they're going to hold him back. This is going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of speculation, but ultimately it's going to be fun. That's a good news story. Back to the negative. Magic round this weekend, mate. You pointed this out. They have relayed the turf, but you saw how bad it was last Thursday night. It got chopped up. They played an A-League game on it yesterday, and I don't care about the A-League unless the Wanderers are in the grand final, in which case I'll pretend for a week. But they played an A-League game on it, and then they had that rugby rubbish played. That doesn't look good.
It looked like a bloody 80s cricket field. It looked like the SCG after a bit of rain on it in the 80s. It was a farce out there at Suncorp. But I know Brisbane had a lot of rain on there. And, I kind of was talking to Dad about it and was like, oh, surely they'll relay the turf. And Dad's like, yeah, they're not relaying this in a week. Lo and behold, they're going to try and do that. And we're having a bit of a laugh about it at work this weekend and throwing up all sorts of hypotheticals about how they're going to get it done. But I think there's a potential for accidents to happen, especially we're playing 9 games on it with the Women's Origin. People forget about that Women's Origin game on Thursday night. That's going to be hella exciting to see that game and whatnot. But, I think there's going to be some trouble for players, especially as the week gets on. But I think if you're playing earlier in the week, good for you. If you're playing later in the week, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very somewhat happy with our draw. I'll park that for 1 second. Yeah, I do have concerns, but last year we said the same thing, and I don't remember there being a big injury. The year before, I know I was at, and it was glorious. The Sunday was pouring rain, and again, there was nothing major to come out of it. But
weather, Dan, for Magic Round, we're expecting sunshine for Friday, rain for Saturday and Sunday at this stage.
Gotcha. Well, it sucks to be a team playing on Friday night then, doesn't it? But it does suck to be a team playing on Friday night because we're playing off the shortest possible turnaround. We're opening Magic Round after finishing what feels like just mere hours ago at Leichhardt Oval, flying up there, and we're playing a team coming off the bye. How's that fair, AJ?
You're asking a Roosters fan about fairness in the draw. Very bold strategy given our start to the year. But let's be real, the draw's a joke. The draw is a joke at this point. It is essentially a primetime TV schedule for 9. That's essentially what it is. And, it is so brutally unfair for teams. And it's a bit rich for Cronulla after a couple of the years they've had with the draw.
Mate, we're just better than everyone. It's finally caught up with us. I was loath to make that comment because it is very low hanging fruit in response. But you got a team that has had 10 days off or 11 days off or whatever it is because they did play the Easter Monday game from memory. Cronulla are going up there off they'll have 1 training session, and Parramatta have had a week off. There's 2 teams that shouldn't play that opener, and it's the Tigers and Sharks. And if you absolutely have to, you play Canberra and the Titans because they also played Sunday or whatever it was. Not the Titans, who Canberra beat. They're the Dolphins. It just, oh man, I don't know. I don't want to complain about the draw, but that's a shocker.
Yeah, I think every team has been stitched up by the draw to start the year. Back onto the Roosters because I'm going to complain about it. We play every Origin affected bye and then every week after Origin. Explain to me the fairness there.
How's that work? That shouldn't be possible.
We play round 12, all players are gone. Then we play round 13 the week after Origin. Then we have a bye. We play the major week after Origin, 2. Then we have a bye. So then we play round 16. Then we have a bye. Then we play 18, 19.
Maybe I shouldn't complain about one short turnaround. Now we do have Manly who are coming off a bye as well, so we are getting a little bit crazy. Plus, we haven't played at home for 2 months, so I need.
You're doing league of service, not playing at Shark Park.
Look, that is true. It is pretty embarrassing. Speaking of embarrassing, though, we this was breaking as we came to air. Lachlan Illias looks like he's going to be dropped tomorrow or today when the Dragons name their team. I don't necessarily disagree with this. I don't think he's been particularly good, but there's another half that isn't playing particularly well that is not going to be dropped.
Yeah, I was talking to Dad about this as well, and I really disagree with the pick here from the Dragons. I think Lockie Illias has been. I mean, we discussed this on the Knock On a couple of weeks ago about Illias being thrown under a bus, but I'm going to compare these two halves here and what they've done this year so far. So Lockie Illias has had 2 try assists, 4 line break assists, this is Flannagan. 2 try assists, 4 line break assists, 2 forced dropouts, 4 tries, while Illias has had 2 try assists, 4 forced dropouts, a line break assist. So they're very similar in comparison. If you're going to make a scapegoat of one person, then that's fine, but you've got to look at it both ways here. And I think they're doing Illias a complete disservice here when his halfback is a literal potato. Sorry, his 5'8" is a literal potato.
Mate, but he's a potato with the same surname as the coach, which is always going to be an issue. And I pointed this out in the preseason. I didn't rate this halves combination, and nothing I've seen is going to prove me otherwise. As an aside, I don't think Dan Atkinson's the answer either, but they have what they got at the moment. One guy isn't going to get dropped. That's the coach's son. No matter how good or how bad he is, that's going to be what's seen. I'm not saying you shouldn't play your son because it's worked out okay for a couple of clearies at the foot of the mountains. But with the greatest respects to Kyle Flannagan, who I've met numerous times and I'm a huge fan of, he's not Nathan Cleary. And if you're going to drop a player, perhaps the one who has more NRL games and is on the bigger paycheck, if you want to send a message, maybe that's the one. But can you go to your son and say, look, I know you're both playing bad. I have to pick one. Do you want to weaken New South Wales Cup? It's not a good situation.
It's not. I wouldn't want to be around the family dinner if Shane did drop Kyle. Be one awkward room to be in. But I just want to do a bit of comparison here with the two names that have been brought up to replace Lachlan Illias. So Jonah Glover has been up there in New South Wales Cup this year. He's had 10 try assists through 7 games, 7 line break assists. He's forced a dropout. He's been much improved on previous seasons, though. And the Dragons have been absolutely flying in Cup this year. I think they've only lost 2 games this year, and he's been an integral part to their side this year. Lincoln King Toiga, who we've seen play first grade before, 10 line break assists, 9 try assists, 5 short forced dropouts. So if I'm picking anyone, I'm probably picking King Toiga, and then you play Flannagan at 7. But I really think Flanagan's going to have to step up kicking-wise. If they're going to pick a kicker, I'd go with Jonah Glover. But if you're going to trust Flanagan with the kicking and let King Toiga run the show, run his natural game at 6, then you pick King Toiga. I wouldn't want to envy Shane Flanagan in making that decision.
Well, there it is, mate. I wouldn't envy him either because he's wearing the red vid. Dan. Guess unfortunately it's time to talk some black, white, and blue. And look, I'm just going to hit record. I'm just going to rant for 15 minutes. We'll see how this goes. If it goes poorly, we just won't run it. If not, well, you get what you get. So let's dive straight into it. Cronulla Sutherland Sharks lost the game. They probably, most definitely, absolutely should have won against the West Tigers. The one thing I keep hearing all weekend or since Monday, the last couple of nights, is game management or a lack thereof. Obviously, when you're talking game management, you're going to go straight to your $1 million half. And unfortunately, it has been another week when Nicho Hynes and Braden Trindle, especially, are going to be under the microscope. For the record, 100% agree. You cannot pay $1 million halfback to not ice a game like that in those conditions where we had a strong wind in the second half and then think that's okay. I'm not absolving Braden Trindle of any of the responsibility. I think he was quite poor too with the game on the line. But Nicho Hynes has been paid $1 million, and when you're being paid as $1 million halfback, you have to ice the game. Let's talk about game management, what we mean by that. I thought Nicho Hynes played quite well. He had 2 try assists. He kicked well in difficult conditions. Braden Trindle, I thought, was very quiet, but ultimately I thought he played well until about the 70th minute, where both just completely turned. And I hate to say it, Cronulla keep losing these close games through our own fault. If we're being full on, I don't think the Tigers that good. They had a huge wind blowing in their face. We had multiple opportunities to kick a field goal. You got, I think Michael Ennis was on Fox. I can't remember who was on 9, but they're saying, take the field goal early. Get it out of the way. There's a very, very good chance the Tigers will not be able to kick a field goal into that gale force wind. A couple of minutes, 10 minutes to go. Cronulla looking for the try. I get it. You score a try, it's probably game over because we had the pin down there. Or you're thinking if we take a field goal, we put the gun in the holster too soon, and then they go down and score a try. We saw that in Canberra where we played negatively. But as it got close to the end, 5 minutes to go, you're like, well, now kick a field goal. We had so many opportunities. The best one that eventuated was Nicho Hynes just taking a pot shot from 45 metres out. Wind was behind, hit the post. I thought it went through. Tremendous kick. Other than that, though, we had him hit, I think, Terrell May once, definitely another defender. And I think there was a third opportunity where Nicho was rushed and threw it to Trindle, and Trindle just miskicked, and it was horrible. The game management was downright deplorable. There were 3 or 4 opportunities there. One especially, I think it was Cam McInnes, had a quick play of the ball. Nicho's in position, and Blake Browley gives it to Flannagan Blake. Flannagan Blake plays the ball, Browley throws it to Nicho. Nicho gets charged down. We saw last year against the Bulldogs, we went too close to the line. Now, I think that's a bit of a cop-out. You should kick the field goal no matter where you are. But Nicho Hynes is playing so shallow behind Blake Browley. Now, I know there was a wind. I get it. But you telling me Browley can't throw the ball an extra 5-10 metres, give Nicho that extra time to just chip it over the oncoming bloke? Game management. Again, there were 2 or 3 opportunities there, and I go back to the McInnes play the ball. And then on the left, Braden Trindle was definitely not immune here. He went left to Talakai, and I think they lost the ball. And then late in the game, we went left, and then Dan Atkinson lost the ball. There was, of course, the Ronaldo. So there's 3 opportunities to win the game without even going too deep. You just want a halfback to say, oi, straight up the middle. Kafusi, Talakai, Flannagan Blake, McInnes. Get me to the 25. Get me 10 metres left of centre. Whenever the quick play the ball is, Nicho has to present himself at every opportunity. Now is all he's got to say to Browley. And Browley's got to look to Nicho and pass the ball. If he doesn't think it's on, too bad. The $1 million halfback is called. I go back to years ago, and I hate bringing this up. I was talking with my roommate earlier, and we both got angry again. Stupid. A couple of years ago, Nicho Hynes calling the ball against the Roosters in a final. Had a huge overlap. Saw it. Browse. Browley turns right, hits Connor Tracy, loses the ball, and the rest is history. If Blake Browley had overruled Nicho Hynes on that Adam Flannagan Blake extra run, that is unforgivable. Nicho Hynes is the game manager. He's the man. He's the $1 million halfback. He has to ice those. If he didn't, it's disappointing that he didn't because, well, it was there to be won. But look, we go on all night. I think all 3 of the spine players, other than Will Kennedy, more on him, have a lot to answer for. Not their proudest moment. Not their proudest 10 minutes. I thought their preceding little bit was fine. Let's talk about the effort. Now, I'm gonna put this into the next point here, and I'm just going to go down here. So I'm sorry if I'm rambling. It's all over the place. I just got to get this out of my head. The Craig Fitzgibbon press conferences, I think, are a complete waste of time. Anyone who gets angry watching them needs to stop watching them because he's got a copy and paste. I saw he printed it out. He's memorized it. Yeah, the effort was good. I thought the boys tried hard. A few things went our way. Got to start. Got to nail. Cliche. Rubbish. Just pointless. If that is actually what Craig Fitzgibbon thinks, then we're in serious trouble. I guarantee you it's not. No one with any football knowledge at all can look at that game and think, yeah, the effort was there, and it was a good game, and blah blah. It wasn't. It just wasn't. I'd say what he really thinks is being said behind closed doors, which is absolutely the right way to do it. You look at the great coaches. Bellamy blows up in the coach's box, but never in the post-match unless a refereeing decision. Same with Ricky Stewart. Cleary, Ivan Cleary, Bennett. He's old. He never says anything now. But in before he turned 145, there's better ways to handle it. So I'm not overly worried with that. But I did want to underline that he said effort plays. Young De Silva, a good young hooker for the Tigers. Good player. Not a great player by any stretch. Could be. He's got a whole lot of talent. Big future ahead. A ball was put up and caught in the wind, and Will Kennedy realised about 20 metres away that he was getting nowhere near it. Sam Stonestreet, the right winger, was also not getting within 20 metres. So they pulled back and waited for the bounce. Nicho Hynes and Blake Browley, who were both within 5 metres of the bouncing ball, turned and looked at each other and sort of smiled. And Talon De Silva kicked the ball and picked it up and scored untouched. Where was the effort in that play? I don't want to pick on those 2 specifically, but if that doesn't come up in a video session, I'd be very disappointed. That was not an effort play. Later on, I believe it was the second half. It might have been the first. I can't remember. It's all folding in. There was an offload. I believe it was Kafusi. And Adam Flannagan Blake watched it. It might have been last week, come to think of it, but point stands, effort plays. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was this week. I'm pretty sure it was Apikaris. I just dived on the ball, and the 4 Sharks are looking there, smiling, and one is just jump on the ball. Honestly, I want players and it's going to sound funny, me sitting behind a TV screen rambling. I want players that, want to die for the jersey. And I got the feeling that the Tigers did, and I got the feeling that the Sharks didn't. That was very disappointing. Again, I feel we were out-enthused, not outplayed. I thought we had more opportunities and we're a far better team. We play that game 10 more times, we win 9. Out-enthused, we beat ourselves. I honestly cannot remember a game this year, other than Penrith, who I thought were a lot better than us in round 1. Sounds funny to say now. I think we've beaten ourselves, and that's just unforgivable. The other thing I've got here is dumb decisions. If there is a decision to be made, the Sharks will make the wrong one. Jesse Ramien's pass to Sam Stonestreet that almost hit him in the side of the head and ended up in the stands. Dumb. Going left, and Dan Atkinson not passing to an unmarked Ronaldo who would have scored untouched. Dumb. Him stepping in and losing the ball. Dumb. Ronaldo getting caught and reaching out 7 meters short and losing the ball. Dumb. Nico Hines waiting to take the kick 5 meters out when he should have been 25 meters out. Dumb. Just the decision-making in this club is horrible. I thought Braden Trindle just made 3 or 4 bad decisions. They kept going left. It's just straight at the middle. The Tigers know what's coming. Who cares? If you're good enough, you stand far enough back, you got a monster win. We saw Nico Hines almost nail it from 45. There was the game plan. I do not know how we lost that game. I could talk negative all night. And please, if you're tuning in, Fins Up podcast tomorrow. Terry will be back. We're going to do something. He's in wherever he is this week. We'll be doing a rundown, and there'll be some negativity, and they'll deserve it. There'll be some positivity, but let's go to the positivity now. William Kennedy banked another 3 Dally M points. He's arguably the form player of the competition. If you were to say Terrell May, Payne Haas, or Hudson Young, it's one of the 4. I thought Kennedy was lights out brilliant yesterday, being Sunday by the time I watch this. He was magnificent. He was everywhere in really difficult conditions in both sides of the field, because it's hard. The ball goes over your head or it falls short, etc. He ran the ball like a demon. The try he scored was an absolute brilliant try that we've been calling. Will Kennedy, support play, perfect. The run he made where he beat 40 people, I wish someone had gone with him, because if anyone goes with him, they score, and numerous opportunities. We needed a Will Kennedy following Will Kennedy. I thought he was tremendous. Adam Fennell-Blake, who's still copying negativity, and I don't know whether this is a joke that I'm not in on. Fennell-Blake kept us in the game. His post-contact meters yesterday, every time he touched the ball, he was making 7 or 8 post-contact meters on his worst runs. You take the shot after Fennell-Blake run and quick play the ball every time. He was doing 2 hit-ups in a set in Golden Point. I don't know what more he can do. I think he's been the 3rd best forward in the competition, maybe 4th this season. I honestly don't know what more he can do. But I thought he was tremendous. I thought Billy Burns was really, really good. Unfortunately, Teague Wilton looks like he's going to miss a couple of weeks. We didn't miss too much, maybe in defence, and definitely in defence. But I thought Billy Burns was pretty darn good. And I think he's earned his spot for the next few weeks. People are calling for Talakai to come in. I don't see that, because late we went to Talakai, and I just don't think it worked. I thought Kennedy was clearly number 1, and then Burns and Fennell-Blake, flip them either way, I don't care. I thought Nico Hines, if you stopped it at 69 minutes or 70 minutes, I think there's an argument there. But defensively, I thought Cronulla were pretty damn good. Again, 18 points to a Tigers team that can then tie on the points at Leichhardt. They're always a better team there. Lachlan Gowan's coming back. We're always up against it. But you look at that and you think, why name 4 opportunities where we should have won the game? And if we had a player who was probably a little bit more clutch than Nico Hines, and I don't think that anyone can – there will be people who criticise that comment. I don't think you can. I think every close game we've been in, and we haven't won a close game this year, you could argue Manly, but it was only close because we fell away late. Newcastle was closer because we fell away late. South, we fell away late and let them back a little bit into the game. They were just so bad. The Cowboys is probably the only game where you can look and go, yeah, we were good for pretty much 80 minutes. But we haven't won a close game. Every close game this year we've lost, and that's not good. That's just not good. Nico Hines got to ice those games. Until he does, he's going to cop the criticism, and I, as one of his biggest supporters, I won't be standing up for him this week. I would put him and Braden Trindle in a room, and I know this is going to sound really, really childish. I'd give him a pad and paper, and I'd say, watch the game, give me 5 things you did wrong and 5 ways you can improve it. Then I'd make him watch it again. I'd say, switch the notepads. You write, Trindle, you write what Nico should have done, etc., because that honestly feels what it is. I don't know what the answer is. You can't teach someone to be clutch. They are or they aren't. We've seen Nico Hines kick field goals before. We've seen him get us home before, so he can do it, and I'm not worried that he isn't the guy, so please don't think it's that kind of rant. I still think these are the halves moving forward. I don't believe Dan Atkinson is the guy that can come in and fix it, but I do absolutely hear a call that why didn't he take a field goal shot? Because he kicked 2 last year. Proved that he could do it. Again, game management. Someone didn't say, Acco's got a couple of field goals on his resume. He won a couple of games, difficult conditions against Newcastle. Why not give him a crack? I don't know. Just felt like one of those days. But going back to Dumb, I missed something here. And he's one of my favourite players. He's one of the most frustrating players in the competition. I love him. I'm an unashamed Ronaldo Mulitalo fan. I thought he played exceptionally well this weekend. He had that try was magic. Not many wingers score that try. He wasn't going to be stopped. There was also the kick that he set up that Billy Burns put Will Kennedy over. Again, magic. There was one moment in the first half where a ball was put through and Jack Bird made minimal contact with Ronaldo Mulitalo's face. And Ronaldo yelled, challenge, challenge, challenge. And I'm yelling at the TV, don't. One, because it was a ridiculous challenge. And 2, fair play can and is always checked by the bunker. The disputed restarts, which are more often than not, your goal line dropouts, first 20-metre restarts, are checked by the bunker. Any foul play that is incurred during that check is penalised, etc., etc. He's challenged something that does not need to be challenged. He said challenge, 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 and Cam McInnes has said challenge. At what point does someone say, "Hey, hold on a minute, we don't need to challenge this"? 1, because it's dumb, and 2, we do not need to challenge. They took one look, said it's incidental contact, lost your challenge, and it's gone. We saw how important the challenges are because later in the game, within a couple of minutes to go, I believe it was the first half of extra time or something of that, Will Kennedy attacked the ball and they were deemed to have knocked on when Kennedy touched it first. They don't have a challenge. We've got 4 shots to probably miss another field goal, but at least we get an opportunity. If they didn't challenge, game's probably over. They kept their challenge. They didn't waste it on pure stupidity. Now, I don't want to have a go at Ronaldo for challenging what happened because we saw sin bins for garbage this week. Any high contact was a penalty. So I can see the reason why he challenged it. But what I can't see is the fact that he didn't need to challenge that and Cam McInnes didn't know that or didn't advise or didn't stand up and say that, or Nico Hines or Flannagan Blake or whoever. They all should have known that. They all should know that they're going to learn the rules. Let's be honest. That was very, very frustrating. That was probably the worst thing I took out of that game is that there was a challenge wasted, and we've seen referees are going to make a plethora of errors. You got to take your challenges. Anyway, whatever. It is what it is. But speaking of changes, this weekend, by the time this drops, Teamless Tuesday would have dropped, and this will be completely redundant. I would be shocked if, except, Hirati got injured, and I thought he was good up until he got injured and letting in that try. There's a good chance Kaylira will be named. If Dan Atkinson is named at centre, then yours truly will be making a big fuss about it, given we have probably the 2 best centres in New South Wales Cup, or 2 of the 3. If they don't go with young Gabriel, I get it, he's young, but Chris Vayala should have played first grade last year. If it's Dan Atkinson, well, hopefully Kaylira is fit, put it that way. But if that doesn't happen, I think Huge Tukes, I honestly think he's played his last game in first grade. I think Braden Hamlin-Nueli was massive for the Jets and will come straight back in. If he doesn't, Jesse Colquhoun was named at 18th man. He comes in. Hohe Bapuru, who just, I don't know why he's not mentioned in more circles. He needs to come in. But I would argue that 2 of them need to come in. You pick any of the 2 of those 3, I don't particularly care. Dan Atkinson cannot play this role anymore. It worked out exceptionally well this week in that Hirati went down, you chuck a utility in there, and Atco probably should have had the winning play. He didn't. He ruined it. I'm not going to go in too harsh on him. Do not get me wrong. That was he murdered a try, but this is a bloke who sits on the bench and gets told, you may get 7 minutes. You may do this. Be ready because you're going to go on anywhere. And people will say, oh, yeah, but you just said that it was lucky he was there. Yeah, Britt Nickera could have done what he did. Sifa Talakai's played plenty of centre. I don't love that idea, but you do what you do. Billy Burns has played centre for Newtown because, unfortunately, there were players get injured all the time. You've got to be able to adjust. So I don't like this. Oh, if someone gets injured, we got Acker on the bench. No, you got to put someone on there with a defined role. This is the I want to say the Laurie, it's Brad Fittler-esque rather, where you just pick players and think, I'll think of a role. Remember how he picked Talakai? Remember how he picked Nico Hines and ruined his contract because he had no specified role? You do not, as a first grade coach, or in this instance, a New South Wales coach, pick a player without a role. And right now, Dan Atkinson does not have a role. Those minutes can go to a bigger minute player, a player who plays that position, and you can have Dan Atkinson as the ultimate 18th man. Because then you can decide, well, we don't need him if there's HIA, and God knows this weekend there probably will be with this non-crackdown garbage. I just don't get it. I just straight up don't get it. I don't want to see another week where we lose a game because our $1 million halfback doesn't kick a field goal. I don't want to be here next week talking about, we tried hard and the effort was there and et cetera, et cetera. And I don't want to be talking about a bloke who is, a 5'8", maybe a halfback, played a little bit of fullback for Newtown and was quite good, going on and playing centre and getting done by Will Penasine. I just want to sit here next week. I want to be discussing the win. But I try to end on a positive. Newtown continued their amazing role. They had an absolute stinker of a game, but ultimately beat the Jets and the flag ran riot in a huge win against the West Tigers. The future is very bright. Do not give up yet, but losing to Parramatta ain't going to look too good. Hope we're sitting here with the great man himself by my side, talking about a win in Magic Round. Travel safe, those that are heading up, and a very special welcome back to our good mate Mike Soulsy, not Salty. That is my Aussie accent, being lazy, who did such a good job last week. We absolutely had to get him back to get some tips on. Before we talk rugby league, mate, the guitars in the back. Someone asked me specifically to ask you about them.
Oh, wow. I'm the typical, I like my guitars to look good because I can't play. I'm very, very ordinary guitarist, strictly rhythm. Look, I've got a few back there. Sound Gear bass, Gibson SG, and I've got my Ibanez on the side and my mate and acoustic there, and all right beside my Green Machine podcast logo. Yeah, I do love playing, but it's all fun and games for me. I wouldn't consider myself a serious guitarist at all.
Well, mate, you look the goods, and that is why we brought you back. And we're going to kick off the weekend with Women's Origin. Game one, always a bit of a, let's be honest, it's a shit shoot because we haven't seen much footy from the ladies. The last time they played was in Vegas, 10 weeks ago now with the bye?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Both some pretty strong lineups.
I'll tell you something. New South Wales somehow lost that series last year, and I don't know how they did it. They absolutely butchered game 2 and 3. Like I was at the game at Magic Round last year, and they looked so much better in the other games too. They just couldn't finish, couldn't get points, and so I think they'll be stinging. So I reckon I'm biased as hell. A little bit disappointed. My girl Gracie Kemp didn't get a recall this first game, and yeah, New South Wales for me. New South Wales will bring it home. Give them a bit of a touch up, even with a strong lineup.
Mate, I love it. I'm going to go the Blues girls too. Again, very biased. They made one major change, and that's in the coaching, which I think decided it last year. You got the most destructive runner in Jamie Chapman out wide, and she had like 4 runs across 2 games. And in game 1, she was the best player in the park. So I think the girls get it done. But moving on to Magic Round proper, and it kicks off with, well, I wouldn't say this is going to produce much magic. The Sharks off an extremely short turnaround against the Eels off an extremely long turnaround. Am I making excuses? Well, that's up to you.
Look, I don't know what to tell you, mate. The Sharks had every chance to win that game on the weekend. I've never seen them mess it up. Like the opportunities for field goals that they didn't take, and then when they tried to take them from ridiculous distances away, the only funny thing for me is the one that got the closest was the one from like 40 meters out that hits the post, ricochets out, and then give away a penalty to finish the game as well. That's cardinal sin. But yeah, look, Parramatta look like a different side with Mitch Moses. Is it enough? Sharks going to be stinging, but Sharks, I don't know. They're so hard to read. They'll play some great games and then Mate, we know that they can't finish them off. So I reckon if it's close, I'd probably lean towards the Eels.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go the Eels too. One, because it hurts me to tip the Sharks. And two, I flat out think they'll win. But moving on to Friday night, the main event, not the Broncos for the first time in, I believe, Magic Round history, as the Roosters host, which I have a problem with, the Dolphins, who are going to be, well, the favourites up there, let's be honest. Are you going to Magic Round this year? And second of all, who wins this game?
I'm absolutely going to Magic Round. If I don't have to miss it, I won't. I think I'm 4 out of the last 5 Magic Rounds I've been to. The only one that I didn't go to was because my son was born a few weeks before. So I kind of thought that might have been the wrong time to be taken off to Queensland. So Roosters, Dolphins. I'm with you on this one, mate. I think the idea that these sides, that their home ground is Suncorp Stadium, getting away games is nonsense. Like it's absolute nonsense. Like they shouldn't actually be allowed to get away with it because they get the biggest crowds there anyway. Like every time you go to these Magic Rounds, Broncos have all their fans there too, and they get the biggest crowd and they got the biggest support. It's still a home game for them. This idea that it's not a home game for them because all other fans are there as well is absolute BS, and I won't wear it either. But we've got Roosters, Dolphins. The Dolphins, watching them on the weekend, I thought, have you seen a side quit so much in defence? They got run through. The Raiders, we ran through them in that second half, just upped our intensity level and they couldn't go with us. The Roosters, I don't know if they can do that. I actually reckon the Dolphins might come back in this one, and they kind of need to at this point if they want to stay relevant this year.
That's fair call. Now, Soulsy is tipping on Terry's behalf, so he's going the Finns. Mate, I'll go the Roosters because you have to get a few separate. But, I don't disagree with that. That Dolphins first half was amazing. Second half was terrible. I'm going to go with the Roosters just because. In the next one, I'm not tipping. I don't care who you pick. I know who I'm tipping. Bunnies and the Knights. I'm taking. I don't care about either. This is anti-Magic Round, mate. Talk me into it.
Oh, talk you into it. Oh, mate, you can't. You're not jumping on the Latrell hype train or the.
I think he's out again.
Is he out again? Is he? Oh, is he suspended? Was he, or is he injured again?
The most Indian player in NRL history, which doesn't shock me.
Yeah, look, I can't. I don't know. South. I don't know how South won so many games earlier this year. They seem to play horribly and still pull out wins. And the Knights can't score points. Mm-hmm. Just on that behalf, I'm gonna have to go with Wayne Bennett's Bunnies because what they will do is they'll make it ugly and somehow pull out a win. But they've done it a few times this year, playing horrible footy. But they were winning. But I think they're going to end mid-pack. But these wins might come in very handy for them. And Newcastle, geez, they can't score points at the moment. Geez, they're in trouble.
They've been so terrible that by the process of elimination, I'm taking a Knights upset because they have to not be so bad. I'm going to regret this. You can play this back to me on Sunday morning and say, haha, you idiot. Whatever. It's all for fun. Warriors, who are going to have a home game against the Cowboys, who are coming pretty darn good.
That's a tough game, isn't it? Like, I am one of these rare people who just don't rate Todd Payten as a coach. And so I've got a bit of a bias against the Cowboys because I don't really like Todd Payten as a coach. He's an ex-Raider, by the way. Like, early days Raider, probably a bit more known for his time at the Tigers because he was part of their premiership winning side. Didn't really rate him as a player. I thought we had better forwards than him when we let him go. Don't rate him as a coach. Don't like the way I don't feel his messages really get through. You know how some coaches you listen to and you're like, oh man, this guy knows his stuff. And I've never really got that from Payten, and his side's been up and down and up and down and up and down. So I don't rate him. The Warriors are on their way back and they're playing good footy, and they had a bad year last year, speaking of ups and downs, but the year before that, they were top 4. They're top 4 at the moment. I'm going to go with the Warriors. I reckon they're going to get there. Yeah,
I'm going to take the Warriors too. I love what I've seen from the Cowboys, especially in the second half of last week, but I just think the Warriors are riding the momentum. I think they'll carry on. Now, mate, if you think Magic Round, you think Marquee, you think the fixture, you think Tigers, Dragons.
I'll tell you what I think. I think what we're all really coming for is the sin bins. That's what I want to see. I'm going to get a sign made up saying I'm only here for the sin bins, and hopefully in this game there's plenty of them, because Tigers Dragons could not give much of a shit about either of these two teams. Tigers have got some skill when they want to with the ball. They've got really, but so are the Dragons. These two sides, like I remember watching the Dragons, even in the back as far as the trials, and just watching the way they were moving the ball around and some of their set plays. They've actually got some really good footy in them, and so do the Tigers. It's hard to lean into this one. I think the Tigers might get it. They've got Galvin came back last week, and they could have imploded, but they didn't. I've heard the same joke a gazillion times, but they've galvanized. They've come together and they managed to somehow get it done against the Sharks. It makes me wonder how they'd go for the rest of the season if they'd lost that game, like they really should have. They really had no right to win that game. But I think they can get the Dragons in a flip of the coin.
Yeah, look, I want to tip against you, but I just can't tip those Red V bastards. I think Tigers get them. I just think they're riding a high. And I know I'm going to say that a bit, but momentum counts, and the Dragons completely lost it. I don't love what they're doing with their halves. I think they dropped the wrong one. Okay, this game, this time last week, you couldn't have talked me into watching. Now I cannot wait. The Titans host, they finally got one right. The Bulldogs, or what remains of the Bulldogs after their 75 suspensions. Can the Dogs bounce back?
Who's out? Who's out in this one? Because I know there was. Geez, they were filthy last week. The Dogs deserved everything they got. There were so many high shots, and they were all shockers. Like, if you want to do a sin bin crackdown, those were the perfect examples of tackles that should go to the sin bin. Who's out? Because I'd imagine the Titans just can't win. They're like one of the other wooden spoon favourites as well. But like I'd starting to think that maybe the Dogs' defensive system will get them home in this game. But they've got a lot of players out, don't they?
Yeah, Tupanua copped the massive suspension. There's a whole heap of them. I think Kurt Mann, a couple of bit part players. Their stars will be there. But you've got the Dogs, who are the best defensive team in the competition. The other week, everything went wrong. It just was one of those nights. I didn't like how they imploded, but more on that later. The Titans, on the other hand, hit random. They were killing the Cowboys, and it was game over. They were killing you guys, and it was game over. Then they turned to absolute water in the second half. I think the Titans might score first. I think the Dogs flog them. I don't care who runs out there. Their New South Wales Cup team is the biggest Titans outfit.
I agree. I think the Dogs system is just too good at the moment. Defensively, they are up. They'll be up for it. They can't win. They can't lose this game, the Dogs, I don't reckon.
So get on the Titans. Panthers and the Broncos, which in the preseason could have been a grand final preview. Now it's almost first last.
Yeah, isn't it crazy what's happened to the Panthers? I was sort of like just on the old X machine this week, and some Panthers fan was saying, "Oh, look, I can't be sad. We've won 4 premierships in a row." And I think the reason that there is a bit of sadness is no one expected the Panthers dynasty to end with a whimper. Everyone expected that, someone would have to knock them off their perch. And the fact that might not even be in the semi-finals is a little bit tragic, but in most ways, fucking brilliant. Pardon the language. I don't know if I can swear on this one, but
awesome.
But like seriously, this is what people expected to happen to the Panthers after they kept losing player and player and player and player, and they kept overcoming and overcoming and overcoming. I'll be honest, I kind of like the fact that this is a wide open competition with a new story. And you know what? The Broncos are one of the favourites. I don't care. Like, they can turn on some brilliant football, and I don't want them to win either. I'd probably take another Panthers premiership over a Broncos one. So like at least that's just same old. But for me, they're the villain. They're the powerful villain at the moment. Get all the Channel 9 stuff, all the good games. Never leave Queensland. Like, did you say they're away for this one as well? Away game?
Yes,
it's the most nonsense thing ever. So yeah, I'm on the Broncos in this one, and I'm here for the chaos of Magic Round if the Panthers can somehow turn that around, but I think the Broncos will win.
Yeah, it's funny to say you wouldn't mind a Panthers win because it's been bugging us for 4 years. Look, I hope Nathan Cleary gets his Suncorp shocker out of the way and goes up there and wins Origin 1 in a couple of weeks. I'm going the Broncos too. But, mate, let's talk about the actual main event, and I mean that with all sincerity. You got the Storm, still the premiership favourites, and you got the team that, well, last week we were here discussing, you've just been force-feeding me Crow at halftime this weekend on Sunday afternoon. You guys look like shot ducks. Second half, you look like premiership favourites. Can you beat the Storm? They'll be the home team, being they've got 1 million Queenslanders. This is the game of the week. I can't wait.
It's unbelievable that this is in the Sunday 6 o'clock game or afternoon, whatever it is, but it's right at the end of the weekend. This game is now second versus third, effectively for second spot. The Storm have not looked like they started looking like this impenetrable force. They no one could beat them. And then all of a sudden they've shown a few weaknesses and all of a sudden they are very beatable. Enter a Raiders side that is never dead, they're never dead, but they are inconsistent as anything. And so if they're inconsistent in this game, they'll get done by the Storm because the Storm will not do a Dolphins and let them back into it. They will not do a Titans and let them back into it. I'm hoping for the Raiders' sake that lessons have been learned. I'm going out on a limb and tipping the Raiders in this one too. I know, and I'm not scared to tip against my side. I'm really not. I will do it if I don't think they're a chance, but they're every chance here. It was funny. Ricky came out in their press conference last week and you wouldn't know they won. He was so pissed at that first half, at the first half performance. And he said, we talked about this last year because we got embarrassed on Anzac Day last year and they kind of dished up. And it's like he wasn't over it. He was obviously happy to get the win, but that's 2 weeks in a row now that they've given up early leads. And I'm hoping the lessons are learned because they were a different side in the second half, especially with the intensity and running. So I'm going to go with the Raiders, mate. I actually think they can get it done. It wouldn't surprise another flip of the coin, but I actually reckon this will be a big game for them because it'll be a chance to prove themselves as a real top four side and not the spoon contenders that everyone called them at the start of the year.
Yeah, this is a litmus test for your boys. If you go out and lose by 6, yep, you're the real deal. If you go out there and start like you did this week and Melbourne get up 20-0, there's no coming back. I know they lost to the Dolphins, but they don't do that twice in the season. It's already out of their system. I'm going to tip the Storm, but I'm really looking forward to this. I think this will be the game around. Mate, thanks again for joining us. No doubt next week when Terry bails yet again, we'll have you back on. And we might even see some guitar this time around.
Sounds good, mate. Sounds good. All right. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again, everyone, for joining us on this week's episode of Rugby League Outlaws. Terry will be back next week. We'll be back on the couch. In sickness and in health, Rugby League Outlaws is back. Until then, enjoy Magic Round.